Nothing.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Hold on a second.
Go ahead. Go ahead. You take it.
Oh, Jim.
Round up. You never know what's going to happen.
Hey,
You never
Karen.
know what's going to happen.
1 second.
I'm mute. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
You never know what's going to happen. Round up. Jim. Right when I hit the button, his phone rings. So welcome, Round Up, as I bring different experts, people that have advised me over the years, people that I talk usually privately with, but being that we're all home and the experts that I refer to are at home also, we have the opportunity to listen to what they have to say. So I welcome you on. This man here is a Washington, D.C. based, not only entrepreneur, real estate investor since 1980. I mean, the dude's been, I mean, he's done huge deals. I think he does deals in Florida too. Let me unmute him here.
Good. Okay.
You get the bat phone, the red hot phone.
I'm back. Yeah.
You got to put out a fire or you good?
No, I'm good. I'm good. I told him I'll call him back.
Oh man, I'm honored. Thank you.
No, it's my pleasure.
So I
Never
was just
important than you, Chris.
I appreciate that, man. I'm honored to have you again. Last time I was with, man, I ain't seen you in a minute.
I know. It's been a while.
Hot coming down here in June.
It's not good. I mean, it's such a tradition. I'm not sure how we're going to deal with that. I guess we'll have to go back and see if we can find some old tapes and play them.
I can't believe it. They canceled the jazz festival, Brother Griffin.
I know, and it's tough for us because that was a getaway from us, as you well know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not it was not a pleasant thing. So anyway, but it is what it is. And I have a friend that was headed to Europe for the North Shore Jazz Festival, and they just canceled that.
Good God. Brother, I want to get into this stuff. Round up, we're going to get right into it. This is Chris Haskins, my mission to raise your financial literacy. James Griffin in Washington, D.C., entrepreneur, real estate investor since 1980. Jim, what impact are you thinking this is? I'm just like all this revenue just down. I mean, with the snap of a switch, this income is changing. I'm talking about hotels, dining, travel. This has to have an impact on real estate over time.
Oh, it certainly does have an impact on real estate. We're seeing it already. The biggest question for people in this business from a lending perspective is that with people losing their jobs, how are they going to pay their mortgages? How are they going to pay their rent? And, it's the basic stuff. And if they can't pay their mortgage and they can't pay their rent, then the investor can't pay his investors. And it's just it's kind of a waterfall. Everybody gets hit. From the small guy who's just trying to make it day to day, and to the guys who are on Wall Street and in these markets are saying, look, we've got investors, we've got markets around the world that's all impacted. It's just not here. It's all over the world right now. So it's a serious problem. The other problem that I see is that the stimulus package is not getting to the people who need it most.
What do you mean?
It's that worker who's a waiter in a restaurant. It's the cab driver. It's the beautician. It's the barber. And people small business people that have relied on a day-to-day revenue flow, $1,200 or whatever the stimulus is not going to help them sustain themselves, I don't think. And so we have to come up with a much more comprehensive arrangement. I think in Canada, they've done something far more aggressive than they've done here. So the challenges that I see are not going to be resolved anytime in the near future. And unless we become much more aggressive in addressing the needs of the people who most need it, I don't know if we're going to, the back end of this may be a bigger problem than the front end.
God. Brother Griffin, just give me a quick snapshot of from 1980 to now, how your business has just evolved. I know you're buying, flipping, doing all the stuff you do, just so my viewers can kind of get a understanding of who you are.
Well, just a brief background. I am been in the mortgage lending business for, since the very, very early 80s, around 81, 80 so. And we were national lenders. We were lenders and servicers of loans. Once, these markets change continuously. We're seeing a big market change now. And so when the market changed, we were not quite large and strong enough to be able to compete with people here have known of organizations like Countrywide and Bank of America, all the major boards. We were playing in that space, but they started going to Wall Street. And so we just, to get funding to compete in the competition that for guys like us, we didn't have the capital to stay. So we sold off our interest and started to work with people that we knew needed a lot of help. That was minorities and Hispanic, African Americans, and other minority populations that were challenged with getting mortgage loans. And since we were lenders, we knew the business very well. So we set up a nonprofit that started working with that group of people, and successfully, because we were not your typical nonprofit social organization. We were business people who had an orientation toward helping solve a social problem that in this one particular space, and that was the home ownership space. How do we get more people who denied home ownership into homes, and which they can build equity for their families? That's kind of how we got started. That's how the company evolved. And along came the crisis in 2008, because we started this in 1995. And so here 13 years later, the crisis hits. And then the challenge was, how do we help people keep their homes? Got them into their homes. Now, how do we help keep them, since many of them were upside down with loans and got bad deals? And so we started acquiring foreclosed properties in neighborhoods to stabilize them. And that was a great business model for us for about 6 or 7 years. We did that. We started a national, Home Free is a national organization, by the way. The company we started was called Home Free USA. We're now a national organization with affiliates in 30 some states. And so when we got started with this acquisition program, we got all of our affiliates involved. And so to date, through our network of affiliates, we've acquired, renovated, and put back on the market as affordable housing over 1,200 properties.
Good Lord. And that's how many states? I know you were doing Florida and Georgia at one time.
Well, we have had our own operation in 4 areas: Kansas City, Missouri, Atlanta, Florida, and the DC metro area.
Gotcha.
But our affiliates were all over the country. Okay. So we introduced them to the process. So the 1,200 was done by our affiliate network. We've done about 300 ourselves. But the whole idea was that, it's still the social commitment to stabilize neighborhoods, to also get people into housing. And we thought we can do well and do good at the same time. So this was driven by the sustaining a positive bottom line, while at the same time buying properties at tremendous discounts from banks, city, local governments, and renovating them in the best quality that we could, and putting them back on the market. And that was a very successful model. That has, we kind of, that model kind of turned on as the markets improved. That model changed. And then we're hit with this virus issue. We're sustaining our operation so far, fortunately. We've had to reduce salaries, but we haven't laid off anyone.
Wow.
And we're fortunate in that respect, because I know a lot of people have had to lay off people. And, this thing could get worse, and we may find ourselves in that position, but so far, so good. Speaking of it getting worse, we don't see I think that anybody to expect things to be back to normal. And nobody really knows, but I expect for anybody that expects things to be back to normal in the next 3 or 4 months, I think they're sadly mistaken. Even as the infections reduce and people feel a lot more comfortable, you can see what happened in China. They opened the doors, and now they're beginning to have infections arise again. So we have to come up with vaccine that will address that. So for people on the call, you have to really think and plan for the long term. And, how do you manage your cash? How do you keep cash? For small businesses, you may have to look at how do you survive this downturn and stay in business. And that may require you to do something else in the interim that can generate some revenue. Because someone told me the other day that in this kind of a crisis, cash is king. Because we see people in bread line and food lines now because they're out of money. They just don't have money.
Wow.
And so this is a serious situation, far greater than the downturn in 2008, in my opinion. Because in 2008, this was strictly economic issue, economic problem.
Greed.
Greed, that was it. You can address greed. You can't address a virus that for some reason has been underestimated. The impact has been underestimated from day one in this country. And so that has created, in my opinion, a lot more problems with it.
Give me the landscape. You're in DC, Mr. G. Give me the land. Are you driving around, or are you kind of hanging tight at home?
No, we go to the critical places like a grocery store.
How's the feeling up there? I mean, I cannot imagine. I know you feel like you're in a twilight zone. I don't even.
But you know, Chris, this is a beautiful twilight zone. Have you ever been on a street where you don't see many cars? The traffic is down.
Not there.
Hey, not here, but here it is. I mean, traffic is down. You can walk the streets and, you know, in the neighborhoods, and there are hardly any cars. The big challenge, though, is in places like grocery stores. Costco, for instance, will only allow a certain number of people in at a time. Most grocery stores are like that. And so you have to long lines waiting for that kind of stuff. But beyond that, it's a peaceful, serene atmosphere that you normally don't see in times when you don't have this overlay of a virus. And so I think from that standpoint, it's great. But the downside, obviously, is that people can't work. People can't. They can't work. They can't. Many of them don't have money to buy the essentials, the basics, and so we all are trying to do our best to help especially the healthcare workers and the frontline workers on this. So our company has been working to raise money, to contribute to sewing masks. Now we are on a campaign to treat hospital staff to food in cooperation with a couple of local restaurants.
Wow.
So deliver it to this. But, you know, everybody should chip in to try to help, because, you know, while some of us may be doing a little better than others, at the end of the day, we're all in this together, and it has to be, you know, we have to figure out how to lift everybody's boat instead of just our own.
Yeah, I have to constantly remind myself that the word interdependent. I learned that word maybe 10 years ago. You know, being entrepreneurs, we kind of feel like we're the captain of the ship at all time. I don't want to speak for you, but for me, I'm running my ship, and I feel like it's just all up to me. And I'm like, I still am dependent on the people that work with us, people that fulfill contractors, loan people, our investors. You know, so I'm kind of interdependent. I know you aren't affected at this second, but I mean, I'm imagining your staff and the mental capacity to take this on. They're looking for you to lead. Yeah. How are you holding up regarding being able to be the captain?
Well, I've learned one thing with a military background. The first important thing about leadership or getting people to move in a certain direction is to be honest with them. Honesty. You have to be honest. You have to basically, give you an example. We knew that we could not operate financially at the same level that we had been in normal times prior to this happening. And recognizing that, we had to make a choice. Do we let people off and try to downsize our staff? Or do we keep people on and try and create and with the idea that if we can maintain our operation at the level and the quality that it has been, we would be in better shape to work through this than to abandon people and fall up and then have to go to our client and customer base and say, look, we can deliver 80% of what we normally deliver, or 70% of what we normally deliver because we don't have the people? Or could I go to them and say I can deliver 100% that we've been delivering, And because we've made some internal adjustments, and I don't have to share those adjustments, but we had to reduce salaries. That's going to, and that's across the board, including mine and everybody else's. And that's going to impact people. That's going to have an impact, but it has far less of an impact than having to lay people off. And I think over the long term, we will fare better by doing that. But in order to do that, a reduction in salary is an impact as well. I mean, people have to make some decisions about, okay, if I'm losing 10, 15% of my weekly take-home pay, where does that leave me? I have to tighten my belt someplace. And so in terms of dealing with that, you have to go to people up front and say, here's our strategy. You lay the whole strategy out to them. We are going to keep people, but we have to take a pay cut. And that pay cut will have to be immediately.
Wow.
And it would have to carry. And if at the first, we can't tell you how long it's going to be for, because we don't know.
No.
Yeah. But you have to be honest with people. You have to be very honest. And it's not always easy to be honest. I mean, it's always easy to be honest, but it's not always an easy message to deliver.
Yeah.
And so you have to. So that's how we've handled it. We've been straightforward and honest with our two things. You're right about what you said earlier. You've got your customer base, you've got your clients, you've got your employees. You wouldn't be in business without your employees. And you wouldn't have a client base without the employees of your operation being able to serve them. And so we just chose early on that we would try to keep a real solid operation going during the crisis because people needed help. But in doing that, there had to be sacrifices. And the sacrifices had to occur with the core of our people, all of us. Wow. And so we brought that to them, to the forefront. Everybody said, we understand. And they've been working just as hard. Wow. And the second part we had to change our method of operation. We're Washington, as well as other cities, is restricted. You can't only critical employees have to be or should be out work at going to the office. So we had to close our office to clients, and we're a client-based company. And we had to take and go out, buy them laptops for people that didn't have them, and prepare them to work from home. So prepare them in two ways, not just with the physical equipment, but to prepare them mentally. People have relief coming to work, leaving home, coming to work. And I didn't realize that as much until this happened. And the one thing that we had a staff meeting this morning via phone video, and the one common element that surfaced is people said they now realize how much they enjoyed the camaraderie of being with their office mates and coming to work. While it was treacherous, sometimes rough some days, but they're saying, boy, how I miss it. I'll be glad to get back to normal. So you're dealing with not just the financial impact, business impact, but you're dealing with the social and psychological impact that it has on people that are working. And that's something that the business owners have to be aware of. It's just not the money. It's just not the access to the copier, to the computer, to the laptop. It's also the psychological impact that this has on people. Yeah. And so people are social beings. They may complain all day long about having to go to a meeting, but when they can't go to that meeting in person, they miss it.
That's something. That's something. So are you in any projects right now?
Yeah, we're heavily invested in Baltimore in development. We stopped all of those. A lot of those are new construction.
Oh my Lord! You say that like it's we just stopped it, Mr. G. No doubt that was a big thing.
Well, all this stuff is big. Well, you have to do it.
I want my viewers to know it's like we just stopped. $1 million project.
No. But you got it's what's interesting. This is to show you how broad the impact of all of this is. So obviously we have lines of credit. We need that commitments tied to them with timelines, interest, and all of that stuff. and they want you to start, because banks don't make money until you borrow from them. And so you get these funding, we got these commitments, and we get ready to start all the plans, permits. And so you go to the bank and say, look, I'm sorry, but I don't want to get this started, and I can't have workers coming to the job, and jobs may be stopped because of whatever reason this is impacting. They said, we understand because we're impacted as well.
Wow.
And so here again, it's just like dealing with your employees. You have to be straightforward and open with your lenders and all the people that you do business with. If you got a vendor who's expecting to be paid and you can't pay him, you call him first. Don't let him call you and say, where's my money?
Gotcha.
You call him first, and they will respect you at that. I'm not saying they'll all agree, but I am saying that it is it's our responsibility as business people to be straightforward and be honest with the people that we do business with, because when this is over, you're going to still have to deal with these same people.
Yeah.
And so people will understand. And so we've had to do that with a lot of vendors. We've had to do that with landlords. And we've had tenants to do that to us.
Do you have rental property too, Mr. G?
Yeah, we do have some rental property.
And that conventional stuff?
It's all conventional. Yeah, it's all and it's not multifamily. It's all single family, most single family or row house.
Tell me how that's coming. How are your tenants? Tell me about how's that look?
We've had a couple of tenants had delays, and so we did reach out to them and let them know that if there were any issues, let us know first. We don't have a lot of debt on those properties. That's a good thing.
Good.
But the reality is, it's still, whether you have debt or not, you have expenses related to any kind of rental properties that you have. So that's an important thing to do.
How about your Airbnbs, Mr. G? I know you. I know Miss G takes care of that stuff, but you've got to have your finger on the pulse on that. I have complete vacancies for the next 90 days.
Well, we have been hit just as hard. We've had one good thing. We've had a tenant to stay. I mean, a renter, Airbnb guest that lived right down the street from one of our properties, but he had a fire. So
wow!
Insurance companies paid him to stay there while his house was being renovated. That had not happened, we would have had a zero revenue from that.
You've been with me,
yeah, same thing. So, and everybody's waiting on Airbnb to decide whether it's going to help its partners or not. And I guess that, like you were saying earlier, maybe Friday or so before we find anything out about that. But we're all sort of waiting to see what's going to happen with that.
So where do you see, just give me your opinion. I mean, no doubt you've seen Roller Coaster. I'm just imagining all the stuff you've seen. Your gut is saying, because here's the thing, I have conversations with some guys, I'm on the side of the fence, challenge credit people. Those are my people. So I have no problem. I've been dealing with those people since the beginning of my career. But that I live one side of the fence is these guys are like business as usual. I'm still buying, just waiting to get deeper discounts. I think that they think that this thing is going to blow over, but that's not kind of what and my gut is telling me let me tell you this. One of my lenders said, Chris, anything that when the world market, something happens, you better believe it's going to have a big impact here in America. Do you think the same?
I absolutely do think the same. I mean, I think that honestly, if you think about the nature of this virus, it's does not, people can't detect whether they have it or not, and it's passed on like that. It's a very mysterious virus. And so until people start to take this serious and distancing and wearing masks and gloves and doing that kind of thing, which basically prevents it from spreading, it does not solve the problem. And so I don't know. I wouldn't bet on a 3-month solution, a 6-month solution. No. I think people should buckle down for the long term, because when we get back to normal, what is the normal? Is there a new normal that says that, I have to, in order to get into this office or this building, I have to have my temperature taken?
Yeah.
Is that a new normal? And if it is, it's going to curtail business to some degree, And so I don't know I think that in our case, we are taking the most conservative approach. We're saying that we need to build up to the extent we can. We need to cut our cost, and we need to build up reserves to last. If we can get to the level for a 7 or 8, 9, 10-month reserve, so that we can position ourselves to go forward. We do have partners that need our service, and they're willing to pay for it. But what we don't want to fall victim to is to go out and increase our spending, because you can buy properties cheaper, for instance, right now.
Yeah.
Why would we buy a property if we're not sure what the market is going to do? So that's kind of where I'm at and where we are. It's a very conservative approach to this, with the idea that the horizon for this problem will probably be 6 to 9 months versus 2 to 3.
Wow. Tell me about your colleagues, Brother G. No doubt you have people like me, that you're experts that you defer to and you talk about stuff. What are they feeling?
And many of them are feeling the same. I mean, everybody's grappling for solutions. Even the most sophisticated people are grappling for solutions. So nobody really has a solution. I don't have it. And
crazy.
so, but the good thing is the most informed people will tell you, approach this in a very conservative way, preserve, strategically spend, even in buying food. This is an interesting story. I was told that Costco put signs up, when it first started, there was a run on toilet paper and paper towels.
Oh,
so
yeah.
After people got what they felt was too many in their house, they tried to return them. So
get out of here.
And so Costco put a sign, we will not be taking any more paper towels or toilet paper in return. So, it's just that we have to be much more informed about how we go about this. So I'm not sure. I don't have an answer, Chris. I think that my only response is that you have to take this one day at a time, but project that day at a time out for the next 6 to 8 to 9, 10 months. And then each day, each month, reassess where you are and be flexible enough to say, okay, I've got to tighten the belt a little tighter, or I can, I got to bring in more revenue, whatever it takes, but don't be complacent, because you can easily become complacent.
I'm listening to you. You're sparking my mind. I love it. Ideas. I met with one of my mentors 2 weeks ago. He says ideas when you discuss with other people, gives birth to new ideas. Roundup, if you're just joining us, Jim Griffin in Washington, D.C., real estate investor and mortgage guy and Home Free USA. What is so much I could ask you? I need to do more using my platform to help my local businesses, Mr. G. I had never even thought about it. Maybe visiting some takeouts and kind of just broadcasting and see if we can help generate some more. I don't want to. I feel like we're going to lose some people, Mr. G. I feel like some businesses aren't going to make it, brother.
Well, in our environment, we know a number of them. Home Free is an organization that has 57 affiliates in 30 states, 30 plus states.
Good Lord.
And so already we've lost about 10 of those affiliates.
Get out of here.
They have laid off. They have closed their doors completely. Now, the chances of them coming back is good. But at the same time, they probably made a decision, let me just stop now before the hole gets any deeper. And so we're working hard to just show how much they are needed and to justify sources of funding that will help them. But there will be businesses that will not survive. That's why I said earlier that one thing that we should do is look at other revenue streams, not that there are a lot out here, but look at whatever your potential strengths are to use. I mean, people in the barber and the beauty business, a lot of those small business owners, they will be hurt real bad with this because people don't the social contact and the closeness that they have with their customers in terms of carrying out their service, creates a real danger for them and the customer. So, it's just unfortunate, but it's hitting some of the smaller businesses in far greater way than it is hitting some of the larger businesses, and it's hitting certain industries like that industry, those two industries. It's hitting them hard. Personal care business, gyms, as an example, they closed the gyms, and so there are a lot of people employed there.
Wow.
And then it's a snowballing effect. Now, the bright side, though, is that I think the government is putting at least a good effort towards putting a stimulus together. And I think that when the markets open back up again, they will open with a bang, because the world is impacted with this. And so if the world can be healed and cured, then everything opens up. So I don't see it happening in the near future, but I do know that this too will pass.
So I wanted to ask you, Mr. G, when I interviewed you last time, how are we looking on time? I got 30. We on 30 minutes, Mr. G.
I'm fine. Wait a minute.
It's
I got
4 o'clock.
10 minutes.
Okay, cool. Mr. G, last time you told me about how many people's equity got wiped out in 08. I want to know what you're thinking about. Are we looking at another devaluation perhaps in the world? I mean, I can only imagine the values there have just been going crazy up until 30 days ago.
Right.
Are we looking at another one of those, you thinking, or are you thinking we might stabilize?
I don't think we're looking at the same level of devaluation for two
Okay.
reasons. Number one is that the market was driven by a lot of capital flowing in 2008, driving up the prices. And you had a lot of people who bought properties that they could not afford.
Gotcha.
So it was just not a case where, and when they bought those properties they couldn't afford, you had an investors funding that. So when those investors, let's say they sold their loans, they sold a loan to Europe or somewhere, or Asia.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden, those people couldn't get their money, couldn't get paid because the borrower couldn't pay any longer.
Bad debt.
So the values fell drastically at that point because they were overvalued. People were into them for too much money, that they couldn't afford. This situation, the properties values have escalated. I don't think they will lose value as much as they did in 2008.
Gotcha.
For the same reason. I do feel, though, that unless and also there's concessions being made for those people who may have lost their jobs with certain mortgage companies. The problem that I see is the concessions are not across the board. You may go to one. I just spoke to a lender today, a borrower at least, whose lender said that, yeah, we will defer your payments for 3 months, but at the end of that third month, you've got to pay the whole deferred payment back.
Wow.
So if my payments were $2,000 a month and I deferred it for 3 months, that's $6,000. On that fourth month, beginning of the fourth month, I'd have to pay the $6,000 plus my $2,000. So a person that's lost their job, that's going to be an almost impossible hill for them to climb.
Impossible.
Yeah. So, and the government says, which some of the lenders are not adhering to, that deferment should be for a 6-month period. And if the person can't pay in 6 months, they can get another 6-month deferral. But that seems to be falling on deaf ears. So I don't know, until we have some very strong national leadership in this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the problem will go away. But we're not in the same, in my view, economic challenge that they were in earlier.
Oh, good. Okay. I'm glad to hear your opinion on that. Well, with your lending background, how did you see the landscape, Brother Griffin, regarding people qualifying now, or with the Fannie Mae or the FHA? Are they changing stuff? How are borrowers going to have to approach things as opposed to 30 days ago? I'm just like, this is right now happening today.
The landscape is challenging. I'll give you one example. FHA, which is considered the lender of last resort for people whose credit score is not at the level that a Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac would accept, because it's a government-backed program. A lot of lenders are telling their borrowers now. In the past, their rates were accepted at, say, 580, which is kind of the floor for getting a mortgage on the FHA. Now, many lenders are telling them you have to have at least 640 credit score. That's
Wow,
still
a
a
big
lot of
jump.
people out.
That's a
As
big
well,
jump.
big jump. As well as in Fannie and Freddie, they've also raised their rates, minimum rates. And so they're where it was a 660 and 700, they're looking at the 660 and 700 when it could have been at 640 before.
Mhm.
So the criteria, the criteria has been raised for getting a mortgage. So that's where the challenges are, because everybody, and the reason for that is to perceive risk involved in it. So if I'm not sure, I'm a lender, you are getting a home, you're buying your home, and you need a mortgage. I'm not sure whether or not you're going to have a job, 3 or 4 months from now.
Period.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And can pay your mortgage. So I'm going to hedge. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, go ahead, brother.
Hedge against that. Call you right back. I'm going to hedge against that by raising the rates and raising my fees so that I'll have enough insurance that will help shoulder me if something happens. So it's more difficult now to get a home. Now the rates are lower. That's the plus. The rates are still down. But even with the rates being as low as they are, 3.5%, some people even offering 3.2%.
Unbelievable.
As low as they are.
Unreal.
But you're having to pay more. You can't qualify for the loan or having to pay more for the loan. What good are the rates?
Gotcha. Well, look, man, I know it was at 35 minutes, Brother Griffin. I know your phone's blowing up, brother. Give me your just final thoughts for my roundup viewers. We got 50, 60 people on here right now. Mr. G, just could give us some words of encouragement. I mean, you've seen so much more than I have. And just what last words you'd like to leave for us for encouragement and some hope for this?
Well, we're all small business people. And I think this is the time to be really, really prudent. You have to think about how to survive this, but you also have to think about what you're going to do on the other side, because this is not going to last forever.
New protocol.
The thought process should be, how do I, as they say in the Navy, button down the hatch now? But now is a survival moment. But I am going to be in business after this is over. Start thinking about what can you do now to bounce back strongly. And while cash is going to be short, whatever you can preserve in cash and your good name, which is your credit, try to preserve that. And even if it comes to the point of you having to call a lender and saying to the lender, look, I've lost my job and I can't pay you, but I will as soon as I can. That is recorded in their data. So at some point, somebody will look back and say, yeah, he missed a couple of months, but look, he called us and told us about that up front. Now your credit score credit scores probably, I won't say this, but they're saying that credit scores should not be impacted with this, but I don't necessarily agree with that. But you can impact it. At the end of the day, it's up to how you deal with it, not so much the government or the credit bureaus. It's how you deal with those issues.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's all. Okay. All right, Mr. G, go ahead, man. I ain't gonna hold you on no longer, brother.
Okay, thanks so much. I appreciate it, Chris. And anytime I can share some thoughts with you, I'll be glad to.
Okay, my brother. I'll talk to you soon. All right, bye.
See
Round up. I'll hang out here for a minute. Thank you guys for rolling with your boy. And the man is so busy. I cannot imagine if your employer came to you, Roundup, and they said, well, we were paying you, I don't know, X amount of dollars per hour. We've got to cut that back. I mean, my heart goes out. And Mr. G has helped me open my mind up. I need to use my platform, Roundup, and I'm open to take any suggestions that you guys, no doubt. We've got a baby on the way, Roundup. I don't know what I'm going to do. Good Lord. I feel like I have this obligation to my community, to my people, to figure out how to continue keeping them in business. We are so blessed to be able to continue full steam ahead. And I think the reason is Roundup because number one for me, low expenses. Y'all know I live in a relatively affordable house. I got small. I mean, I lease a car. It's $300 a month. My wife, high expenses. Me, low expenses. So I mean, I own nothing. I have no jewelry. I got a wedding ring. The only thing I own is real estate. I've put every dollar that I've owned into real estate. And I'm not saying that is good, bad, right, or wrong. But as of today, we're not necessarily feeling the crisis pressure yet. You know, we've been able to hold on to the properties, paid off a bunch of debt over the years. Roundup, I'm open for suggestion. How would you like to use the platform here to just generate some business for your local businesses? Please put in the video description what anything you think you recommend for the Roundup people. I see you guys are like, I feel like you guys are like family. I'm seeing a bunch of people around Big Express, ZB, Jamon. You guys are around all the time. I'm nervous that this thing is going to last. Mr. Griffin's been around since the 80s. My new wholesalers, I love these guys. I think wholesaling won't be going away, but here's the thing. When you come to a certain level in your business, let's say you stack 1, 2, 3, 4, 500,000. You can't wholesale cash. You can't wholesale cash Roundup. You have to have a home for that money. And that's the situation that I'm in. A lot of guys are in. I'm not just flipping contracts, okay? So we have capital that we have to get deployed. I don't care if it's 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, million, 2 million, 3 million. If you don't deploy that money Roundup, then you start chipping away, okay? So there's a problem. I remember Robert Kiyosaki saying, there's one problem not to have any money, but there's a bigger problem having too much of it, right? So you have to figure out where it's going to go. Where will it be deployed? And I do want you to listen to my wholesalers. Keep listening to them. They're flipping paper, which is cool. That'll keep you some income coming. But here's the thing, Roundup. When you build up to so much of it, you have to get it working. Get it working on the streets, all right? So just keep that in mind. You will not wholesale your way to being wealthy, okay? You cannot wholesale your way to being wealthy unless you just have a wholesaling company that does it. And then your profits go down so slim and you're just managing people. Roundup, thank you for letting me pour into you. It's just an honor, man. I'm just shocked. I'm honored that you guys show up for me. 60-something people on here. Share this content. Subscribe to my channel. Hit that like button. Smash it. And I'll be bringing different experts on. Please let me know what expert you want and pray for us as we have to. I found out yesterday we will be inducing my wife. We will be inducing my wife next week. So I'll probably go live sometime during there so you guys can see this craziness. Here's what the doctor said. They said, well, you could wait till the baby comes. We've got one doctor on call. We don't know if he'll be able to come in and help you. Or you can plan to have the baby this day, and we know the doctor's going to be there. So what do we have to? It's crazy how we have to figure out how to maneuver in these crazy times. Okay, I don't want to do that. I want baby to stay as long as he wants. But here we go. So next week, baby will be here. I don't know what day yet. I think it's the 22nd, but I will let you guys know. And thank you for your support. Roundup. I'll see you soon. Chris Haskins over and out. God bless you. Bye, everybody.